Hey everyone, David Aragona here for another edition of the TimeformUS Road to the Derby series. And this is the only Derby prep that we're going to talk about this weekend that is taking place on a surface other than dirt. The synthetic 100-point prep for the Derby is the Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes, run as race 12 at Turfway Park on Saturday. And we've got a field of 12 runners signed on to contest this race, looking to secure a spot in that Kentucky Derby starting gate through Turfway Park. And that, of course, is the route that last year's Kentucky Derby winner Rich Strike took to have success in the Run for the Roses. So maybe this is a race that's worth paying more attention to than some handicappers might believe. You see these 12 runners for the race, and it is a wide open field. And actually, this field is evenly split between runners who have had prior experience on synthetic and those that have not. 6 horses have prior races over synthetic courses, and 6 of those have only run on dirt or turf and never tried the synth before. And actually, the 2 horses that are shown as the shortest prices on the morning line, the number 1 Major Dude and the number 10 Two Phils, listed at 5-2 and 7-2 respectively, they are 2 of the horses that have never been on a synthetic surface before. So definitely plenty of variables to take into account as we handicap this Jeff Ruby Stakes. Before we get to the major contenders, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector to get a sense of how this race might be run towards the front end. And there is a good deal of speed signed on in this race. The number 4 Fantastic Again is a horse that has been a front runner in his recent races over the Tapeta surface at Turfway. The number 5 Maker's Candy, another runner that has shown speed on the dirt, so you'd imagine that would translate well to the synthetic. And also the number 11 Wadsworth is a horse that I'm interested to see how he runs, because he is a horse that can be pretty headstrong in his races, sometimes wants to be a runoff type, so he could also push the pace. And there are plenty of others like the number 7 Bluebirds Over and even Two Phils who like to be forwardly placed. So I would imagine that this pace could heat up towards the front end. Another feature in TimeformUS that we'll check out is the TimeformUS Finish Projector. This a new feature that you can check out in the TimeformUS mobile PPs that have recently launched in your DRF mobile PPs, as well as the new version of TimeformUS on desktop that you can check out by clicking on the TimeformUS tab in your regular DRF PPs, just toggling over from your DRF Classic or Formulator past performances, and you can check out this new Finish Projector, which is basically the TimeformUS Power Picks just shown in a visual representation, displaying the relationships between the horses at the wire, kind of giving a sense of how strong of the confidence that TimeformUS algorithm has in the projected finish of this race. And you do see that morning line favorite, the number 1 Major Dude, shown as the winner. Also, the number 8 Congruent made up a lot of ground from where he was shown on the pace projector to be shown second on this finish projector. And one reason for that is he does have that late pace flag attached to him, indicating that he is the horse with the highest late pace rating in TimeformUS of anybody in this field. And that's often something you want to pay attention to in races that are predicted to feature fast paces. Well, let's go through the main contenders. And we're actually going to give a mention to every single horse in this 12-runner field because it is so wide open. So let's begin with the rail-drawn morning line favorite, the number 1 Major Dude. And we'll check out his last race when he won the Kitten's Joy on the turf at Gulfstream Park. And Major Dude has really been a turf specialist so far in his career. He's come to hand on that surface, was the winner of the Grade 2 Pilgrim last year, and then most recently, second off the layoff. This was the best performance of his career when he put away a couple of nice runners to the inside to draw up and win this Kitten's Joy, earning a career best 111 TimeformUS speed figure. That makes him one of the fastest horses on the way into this race, but it remains to be seen if he can transfer that form from the turf to the synthetic surface. I will say he does also own a victory on the dirt, and I'll talk about this as I go through this race. And one thing that I look for when I'm handicapping synthetic races, looking for horses that are trying the surface for the first time, are horses that have shown surface versatility, because synthetic is a third different surface, and you can't just look at turf form or dirt form to gauge a horse's aptitude to handle synthetic. So the fact that Major Dude has handled a variety of kinds of turf courses and even one on the dirt does give me some confidence that he might be able to handle the synthetic, but he still has to prove it in the afternoon, and 5-2 seems like a pretty short price to take on a horse trying a surface for the first time. To his outside is the number 2, Scooby Quando, and he is one of those that has plenty of synthetic experience. You see all of those blue color-coded speed figures and race conditions in his TimeformUS PPs. Those indicate those are all synthetic races. And Scooby Quando is coming off the local prep for this, the John Battaglia Memorial, where he was second to today's rival Congruent. And I thought Scooby Quando ran a deceptively strong race that day. The pace was fast and it came apart, but he was saving ground coming around the far turn and actually got caught in behind those tiring runners, losing momentum as they came to the quarter pole. And he had to wait and actually lost ground to the eventual winner Congruent, who was making this unencumbered run on the outside. He had to wheel outside in the stretch and make up ground to the final eighth of a mile. And Scooby Quando was actually finishing best of all at the end of that race to get up for second. So I thought that was an encouraging effort from him. He does have the pedigree to get a little bit more distance, being a son of Uncle Mo. So I think he's one that is 15-1 in the morning line that you have fewer questions about because you know that he handles the surface. And I think even though his last speed figure is lower than what Major Dude has earned, the fact that he ran that race and had some trouble towards the middle portion, I think is a sign that he might be able to do better in this Jeff Ruby Stakes. To his outside is the number 3, Event Detail, another horse with positive experience on the Tapeta surface at Turfway. He did break his maiden over that surface 2 back and was a pretty impressive winner that day, getting the job done by 2 3/4 lengths, going the 1 mile distance, made a big move around the far turn to take command of that race and was able to hold on through the stretch under very light encouragement. His connections took a shot over a dirt course at the Rebel last time, trying a pretty tough field that featured the likes of Confidence Game, Red Route 1, Reincarnate, all horses that are now on the DRF Derby watch, and Event Detail just wasn't competitive with those types. He also probably did not like the dirt course or the sloppy dirt going that he caught last time. So getting back on the PETA definitely going to be a benefit to him. The question I have is just overall quality. He wasn't beating much 2 back, and he's going to have to prove that he really does belong against these graded stakes level foes. The number 4 is Fantastic Again, and we're going to check out his TimeformUS PPs, and you can see he's another one of these runners that has surface versatility, but in addition to that, he's already won over the Tapeta surface at Turfway Park, so you arguably have the most confidence in him handling this surface because he was a very impressive winner when he won that allowance race 2 back, and then similarly, last time when he won the Leonada Stakes back in the middle of January, he was just under a hand ride, very light encouragement to get the job done that day, earning a 106 TimeformUS speed figure. He has been off for a little while since then. He's coming off a 2-month layoff into this Jeff Ruby Stakes, but this was a planned layoff. He has been working consistently since then for trainer Wesley Ward, who is so dangerous in these Turfway races. So I expect a good effort from Fantastic Again. The big question for him is not so much the distance, because I think he definitely has plenty of stamina in his pedigree, but the pace scenario, because he does have plenty of speed. He wants to lead this field early, and there could be some contention towards the front end of this race, so we'll see how fast Fantastic Again has to run on the early lead. A horse that could be pushing him in the early stages is the number 5, Maker's Candy. And let's take a look at Maker's Candy's last race when he finished first on the dirt at Aqueduct. This was against New York breds in the Gander Stakes. And I say he crossed the wire first because he actually was disqualified out of this victory, as Neural Network, who is ranging up outside of him, is actually one that gets interfered with by Maker's Candy in the late stages. You could see it's kind of subtle, but right there, the horse is drifting out a little bit as they come onto the wire, and the stewards deemed that intimidated the runner-up enough to potentially change the outcome of this race. So Maker's Candy was disqualified. He has only run on the dirt so far, so he's going to have to try to transfer that form to the synthetic, something that often is not easily done. What I will say is that he does have some turf pedigree on the dam side, especially you dig it deep into his second generation of his female family. There is turf there, so some people look for hidden turf pedigree as maybe a sign horses could handle the synthetic surface. And his sire, Twirling Candy, is a horse that had success on synth himself and has been a decent synthetic sire. So I think there are some signs that Maker's Candy could transfer his form to the surface, but he's going to have to survive what could be a competitive early pace scenario. The number 6 is Baby Billy, and let's take a look at his most recent race at Gulfstream Park when he broke his maiden going the same 9 furlong distance, but on the turf. And you could see he's getting a dream run through along the inside, cutting the corner there to come inside of the second place finisher Mondego. But I like the grit that Baby Billy shows through the stretch here. You can see he's still a little bit goofy. He's got his ears pricked coming to the wire, but he feels that challenge to the outside right as they come to the finish line, and he's able to dig in and hold that horse off to win that race by a head. And that was a 97 TimeformUS speed figure, so a little bit lower than what's going to be required to win this race. But do take note, earlier in this horse's career, he had run a 102 TimeformUS speed figure in the fall of his 2-year-old season, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. So this horse started out as a dirt horse, clearly didn't quite pan out on that surface, but was able to switch to the turf last time and showed that versatility and also the stamina to get that longer distance. So kind of what I've been saying, I like these horses switching to the synthetic that have shown that versatility. They handle different kinds of surfaces, different tracks, and Baby Billy has done that. And he just strikes me as one that is going to like this distance and could like the way this race sets up, because he was able to close into the fast pace last time. And I think he could be facing a similar scenario here for trainer Jack Sisterson. The number 7 is Bluebird's Over, and he is one of those horses that does have experience on Tapeta, but he's actually never run on the Tapeta at Turfway. He's run on it at Gulfstream Park and also at Woodbine, and was a winner of both of those races, which came as a 2-year-old. He came off the layoff last time and tried the turf in the Colonel Liam at Gulfstream, was not that successful, was beaten by some runners that actually finished behind Major Dude in the Kitten's Joy that horse won in his start just before that. Bluebird's Over, while he does have those 2 synthetic victories, I didn't think he was beating particularly strong fields in either situation. Even that grade 3 victory at Woodbine 2-back, that was a pretty weak field for this race. So I feel like Bluebird's Over is going to have to improve getting back on this Tapeta surface if he's going to be effective here. And he's another one that could be involved in that early pace. The number 8 is Congruent, and he is the horse that had that late pace rating attached to him in the TimeformUS pace projector and finish projector, and that is primarily due to his performance last time when he made that big last to first run to beat 11 rivals and win that John Battaglia Memorial, the prep for this Jeff Ruby Stakes, and he did it pretty well, winning off by 3.5 lengths. You see he got that 110 TimeformUS speed figure with the P notation attached to it. That means that it was a race that actually came up faster than the 110. You see the 117 final time figure just below his first place by 3.5 lengths finishing position. But my colleague, TimeformUS speed figure maker Craig Mulkowski, will put that P notation in to indicate that the speed figure was adjusted up, or in this case down, because that number of the final time number just seemed unreasonably fast for the horses in that field. So take note of that. While Congruent is coming off a career best number, the final time was actually even faster than that. He got a fast pace to close into that day. He's likely to get one again. The problem is he was 16-1 last time, and now he's 5-1 on the morning line. So you're not getting nearly the kind of price that you got on Congruent last time, even though he's got that positive experience under today's conditions. Moving on to the number 9, Escapologist. This is a horse who, again, has never been on the synthetic, but he did win on the turf last time and really improved from his prior dirt form when he got on the turf for his first attempt on that surface. And it was a pretty game effort at Fairgrounds. We haven't seen too many horses rallying up the rail, just given the way that Fairgrounds turf course has been playing for this entire meet. And he actually came up the inside to get that victory and was game to do so. He's going to have to improve on that 98 TimeformUS speed figure to be good enough to win this race. But look, he's a big price. He's the biggest price on the morning line at 30-1. So I'm not going to talk you off him, because I do think this is a wide open race. He's just not quite for me. The number 10 is Two Phils, and he is another horse in this race that is getting on synth for the first time, and he's never tried the turf either. He has been a dirt-only horse for his entire career, but his connections, Larry Ravelli, have decided that they're going to try the synth to try to secure his spot in the Kentucky Derby starting gate, because Two Phils already has some Kentucky Derby points in the bank from when he was second in the Lecomte to Instant Coffee and then third last time in the Risen Star to Angel of Empire. Two Phils actually has a place on our Derby watch list that I compile with my colleague Brad Free, but Two Phils is really going to need to do well in this Jeff Ruby Stakes if he's going to maintain that position, and I'm a little bit skeptical skeptical. Hard Spun is actually a pretty good synthetic sire, and the Dam Sire General Quarters is one that had success on synthetic. So there is pedigree for Two Fills to handle this surface, but making that transition from dirt to synth is not the easiest thing to do. And I also question whether Two Fills really wants this mile and an eighth distance. He's been fading a little bit at the ends of his races. That's partly due to the fact that he's moved early into fast paces, but I have some questions about Two Fills, especially at that 7-2 morning line price. The number 11 is Wadsworth, and he is a runner that is actually undefeated on the synthetic Tapeta surface at Turfway Park. Wadsworth was a very impressive winner two-back when he won his maiden race by 10 lengths, going the 1 mile distance, just kind of ran off on the front end that day. His rider, Chris Landeros, really could not contain his speed and just dropped his hands and let this horse dominate on the front end that day. They took him off the pace to win last time when he was beating a slightly weaker field, though Scooby Quando was also in that race. And Wadsworth, again, got a little bit rank in the early stages. Didn't really want to settle, but once he got to the outside, he made a pretty impressive move to take that race over and won it well. He did draw an outside post here, so I'm a little bit concerned if they try to use him early to get over and save ground into the first turn, that they might not be able to get him back off the pace then, because he is a horse that has that tendency to get a little bit rank, but he's going out for a dangerous barn, Brad Cox, who's been having success at this Turfway Park meet. So Wadsworth definitely one you might want to consider a contender in this race. One more horse to take a look at, that is the outside draw, number 12, Point Proven. And this is another horse that has never been on the Tapeta before, but at least, unlike Two Fills, he's going to be a big price. So if you want to make a case for him, you're going to get paid if you're successful. And I'll make the case for this horse because even though he's never been on the synthetic before, he's got some pedigree that suggests he might like it. Gunrunner has actually had some success as a synthetic sire, winning at 15% with all synthetic starts, actually higher in synthetic route races. And on the downside, there is good pedigree here for horses to handle multiple surfaces, including the turf. He's a half to a horse named Mystic Knight, who's more of a dirt horse, but he's also a half to 2 synthetic winners. In addition to that, the Dam herself had some success on the turf. So there's a lot of surface versatility in this pedigree. And when I watch this horse run, to me, he doesn't move like a traditional dirt horse. He's got this big loping stride that has made me think in the back of my mind in the past, I might want to see him on the turf down the road, but maybe synth is going to be the right surface for him. And I think it's interesting that Todd Pletcher has pointed him for this race, even though he's disappointed in the couple of allowance races recently. So he's one that will have to get faster, but I like the surface switch for him, and I think the distance is really going to be up his alley. So let's move on to take a look at my picks in this Jeff Ruby Stakes. And as you can tell, these are value-based picks. And as I've been saying throughout this preview, I don't want to settle for short prices on horses that still have so many questions to answer with regard to the surface and company. So while I respect horses like Major Dude, who I do have fourth in my picks, as well as Two Fills, who I left out, I just don't want to take short prices on them. So I wanted to highlight the horses that I think are going to offer good value. So my top pick is the number 6, Baby Billy. He's got some things to prove from a quality standpoint, but I think he's going to like this surface, and he's going to be a big price in this race. So he's my top pick. I also think the number 12, Point Proven, is another that could offer value and fly under the radar as the other Todd Pletcher runner coming in here. Another one that I've pegged as a candidate to really like this Tapeta surface. So just a race where I think you want to do some price shopping. I've got Baby Billy, Point Proven, and even Scooby Quando in there as my value plays in this Jeff Ruby Stakes on Saturday at Turfway Park. Good luck for playing the races this weekend.